My phone buzzed at 6:47 a.m. Diana's name appeared on the screen and I knew before answering that whatever she wanted it wouldn't be good. We need to talk about the beach house. No greeting, no pleasantries, just 5 words that sent a chill through my chest despite the morning coffee warming my hands. Good morning to you too, Diana. Don't be cute, Paul. Michael's been gone 3 months. It's time we settled his affairs properly. I walked to the window of my apartment overlooking downtown Seattle, watching the early commuters flooding the streets below. The beach house, of course it would come to this. Michael's affairs were settled, Diana, the funeral, the probate, everything's been handled. Not everything. Her voice had that edge I'd heard too many times over the years, the one that preceded demands disguised as requests. That property in Cannon Beach, it should come to me and the boys. The beach house, 3 generations of family summers. My grandfather built it in 1962 with his own hands, rough pine boards and salt-weathered cedar shingles. My father expanded it in the 80s. Michael and I had spent every summer there as kids, fishing off the rocks, building driftwood forts, falling asleep to the sound of waves. Diana, we've been through this. No, Paul, you've dismissed this. That house is worth at least $2 million now. Michael owned half. Michael never owned half. Your father left it to both of you. I closed my eyes, remembering my father's funeral 7 years ago. The rain, the Presbyterian minister who'd never met him reading generic words about eternal rest. Diana hovering near the will reading like a vulture circling wounded prey. Dad left it to me, Diana. Michael got the investment portfolio and the Seattle condo. That's not how I remember it. That's how the will read. That's how probate recorded it. Michael never contested it because he understood that's what Dad wanted. Silence, then quieter, more dangerous. Michael told me different. He said you manipulated your father when he was sick. My grip tightened on the phone. Excuse me. He said you rewrote the will, got Dad to sign papers when he was on medication, when he didn't understand what he was signing. The accusation hung in the air between us like smoke. I felt heat rising in my chest, but I'd learned over years of dealing with Diana that losing your temper meant losing the game. That's a serious claim, Diana. It's the truth. And I've consulted with a lawyer. We can challenge the original distribution, prove undue influence, get what Michael was owed, what my sons are owed now that he's gone. My sons, there it was, the real motivation. Diana's boys, Tyler and Josh, 22 and 24, neither one employed, both living off Michael's life insurance and savings like it was an infinite well. You're talking about contesting a 7-year-old will that went through proper probate. I'm talking about justice for my children. That beach house could set them up for life. The rental income alone would. Diana, stop. I won't stop. Those boys lost their father. They deserve what Michael left them, which was substantial. Michael was my brother and I loved him, but he didn't own that property. I do. Then you'll be hearing from my attorney. She hung up. I stood at the window for a long time after that, watching the city wake up, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't just a nuisance. Diana was serious. And Diana, for all her faults, was relentless when she wanted something. I called my attorney, Richard Chen, at 8:30 when his office opened. Paul, good morning. What can I do for you? Diana's threatening to contest Dad's will. Claims Michael owned half the Cannon Beach property. Richard was quiet for a moment. I heard papers shuffling. The will from 2018, the one that went through probate without any challenges. That's the one. On what grounds? Undue influence. Claims I manipulated Dad when he was sick. Paul, your father's will was witnessed by 2 independent parties. His doctor confirmed he was of sound mind. We have medical records establishing his competency. Any challenge would be frivolous. But she can file. Anyone can file anything. Doesn't mean it'll go anywhere. But yes, she could tie things up in court for months, cost you legal fees, create headaches. Exactly what she wants. Probably. Has she officially filed anything? Not yet. This was just a phone call this morning. Let me know if you receive any legal notices. In the meantime, I'd suggest you don't communicate with her directly, everything through attorneys. I thanked him and hung up, but the unease remained. I knew Diana. She didn't make empty threats. 3 days later, I drove to Cannon Beach. It had been 6 weeks since I'd been there, life, work, the usual excuses, but really I'd been avoiding it. The house felt different now, haunted by Michael's absence in a way that had nothing to do with ghosts and everything to do with grief. I pulled into the gravel driveway at twilight, the old Cape Cod standing against the darkening sky like it had for 60 years. The paint needed work, the deck railings were loose, but it was still beautiful, still home in a way my Seattle apartment would never be. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The smell hit me immediately, salt air, cedar, something else. Something wrong, recent cigarette smoke. I don't smoke. Michael quit 20 years ago. Dad hated it. I walked through the living room past the stone fireplace into the kitchen. A coffee mug sat in the sink, not mine, lipstick on the rim. My pulse quickened. I checked the bedrooms. In the master I found evidence someone had been sleeping there. The bed was made but imperfectly, a hair tie on the nightstand, women's reading glasses. Diana had been here. I pulled out my phone and called Richard. She's been in the house. Can you prove it? There's evidence. Her things. She has a key Michael must have given her 1 year ago. Change the locks immediately. Document everything. Take photos. If she's entering your property without permission, that's trespassing. I spent the next hour photographing everything, then drove to the hardware store in town before it closed and bought new locks. I installed them myself in the fading light, hands working while my mind churned through possibilities. This wasn't just about money, this was about control. Diana had always resented that Michael and I were close, that family decisions didn't automatically defer to her preferences. Now with Michael gone, she saw an opportunity to claim what she thought should be hers. That night, lying in the master bedroom listening to the waves, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Michael. Our last conversation, 3 weeks before the stroke that killed him, we'd been here actually, at the beach house. September weekend, off-season, just us. We'd sat on the deck with bourbon watching the sunset. Diana's been talking about this place, he'd said. Yeah, thinks we should sell it, split the money, says it's not fair you got it and I didn't. Michael, you never wanted it, you said. I know what I said and I meant it, I'm just telling you she's got ideas. You want me to talk to her? No, I'll handle it, I always do. He'd smiled, but it was tired. I just wanted you to know. In case something happens. Nothing's going to happen, you're 53 years old and healthy. Yeah, still, you should know she thinks about these things. Something happens, had he known, had he felt something wrong in his body, some premonition. I got up and went to the study, a small room off the kitchen where Dad used to do his bookkeeping. Michael had used it when he stayed here, paying bills, handling his rental investments from the old oak desk. I sat in the chair and opened the drawers one by one. Bills, receipts, old tax returns, nothing unusual until the bottom drawer. It was locked. Never noticed that before. I tried several small keys from the kitchen junk drawer until one worked. The drawer slid open. Inside was a manila envelope, on it in Michael's handwriting, for Paul in case Diana tries something. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were papers, a letter, documents, and a will, not Dad's will, Michael's will. I started reading. The letter was dated January 15th, 4 months before Michael died. Paul, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone and Diana's probably making your life hell. I want you to know some things. First, I never believed you manipulated Dad. That house was always meant for you, we both knew that. You loved it, I tolerated it. Dad made the right call. Second, I know Diana thinks she's entitled to it. She's been pushing me for years to challenge the inheritance. I refused. That house is yours, free. Third, and this is important, look at the document included here. It's my will, the real one. I executed it 2 months ago with my attorney, Donald Pearson, in Portland. Diana doesn't know it exists. She has a copy of my old will from 2015 before I understood how serious she was about the beach house. This new will explicitly states that she gets the life insurance and the investment accounts, but any claims to the Cannon Beach property are null and void. I've included a paragraph that specifically prohibits her from contesting your ownership. It's ironclad, Paul. Pearson assured me. If she tries to come after the house, this will shut her down. I love you, brother. Don't let her bully you, Michael. I sat back staring at the papers. Michael had known. He'd seen this coming and protected me from beyond the grave. The will was exactly as he described. Notarized, witnessed, filed with the Oregon probate court. I checked the filing date. It had been recorded 3 months ago. Right after Michael's death. Pearson must have submitted it. There was more emails between Michael and Diana from last year. In them she was explicit about her plans. Michael, we need to talk seriously about that beach house. Your father had no right to cut you out. We should challenge it. My lawyer says we have grounds. Michael's responses were measured but firm. Diana, I wasn't cut out. I received significant assets. The house was always Paul's. Dad knew what he was doing. Her reply, you're being naive. That property is worth millions now. Paul doesn't even use it. We could sell it, split the money, set the boys up properly. Michael, the boys are fine, and that house isn't for sale. Drop this, Diana. She hadn't dropped it. She just waited for Michael to die. I spent the rest of the night reading everything in that envelope. Michael had been meticulous. He documented every conversation with Diana about the property. He'd kept copies of Dad's will, the probate records, even photographs of the house from different decades showing how our family had maintained it, improved it, lived in it. He'd built an ironclad case for my ownership. By morning I had a plan. I called Richard at 8. I found something. Michael left documents, a will, evidence. Bring it all to my office, today if you can. I drove back to Seattle, the envelope on the passenger seat like a bomb waiting to detonate. In Richard's office, I spread everything across his conference table. He examined each document carefully, his expression growing more satisfied with each page. This is extraordinary. Michael essentially made it impossible for Diana to challenge your ownership. Look at this clause. He specifically revokes any past claims or informal agreements about the property. He states unequivocally that he never had ownership interest and that any statements to the contrary made by him or attributed to him are false. Will it hold up? Paul, this is bulletproof. The will was properly executed, filed with probate, and contains language that would make any judge laugh Diana's case out of court. More than that, these emails show premeditation on her part. She was planning this before Michael died. So what do? We wait for her to make her move. When she files her challenge, we respond with this, but I'd suggest we do something else first. What? We invite her to a meeting. Informal, present the evidence. Give her a chance to back down before this gets ugly and expensive. I thought about that. Part of me wanted to let her file, let her waste money on lawyers, let her face the humiliation of losing in court. But Michael wouldn't have wanted that. He'd wanted peace, not war. Okay, set it up. Richard sent a letter to Diana's attorney requesting a meeting to discuss the property dispute. To my surprise, they agreed immediately. We scheduled it for the following Thursday at Richard's office. Diana arrived with her lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Patricia Hoffman, and Tyler, her older son. Josh apparently couldn't be bothered to show up. We sat in the conference room, Richard and me on one side, them on the other. Patricia opened. My client believes she has legitimate claims to the Cannon Beach property based on oral agreements between her late husband and his father, as well as evidence of undue influence in the execution of Robert Hayes' will in 2018. Richard nodded. We're aware of your client's beliefs. We've asked for this meeting to present evidence that contradicts those claims and frankly makes any legal challenge inadvisable. Diana's eyes narrowed. What evidence? Richard slid a folder across the table. Michael Hayes' last will and testament executed 4 months before his death, filed with probate in Oregon. Please direct your attention to Section 7. Patricia opened the folder. Her expression changed as she read. Diana leaned over, trying to see. What is this? It's exactly what it appears to be, Richard said. Michael's final wishes clearly stated. He explicitly confirms Paul's sole ownership of the property and revokes any claims to the contrary. Diana grabbed the folder. This is fake, Michael never. It's notarized and witnessed, filed with the court. You can verify its authenticity with Donald Pearson in Portland. He was Michael's attorney. I watched Diana's face as she read. Shock, anger, confusion. Tyler looked between his mother and the papers, clearly lost. He wouldn't do this, Diana said quietly. He did, I said, because he knew you'd try exactly what you're trying now. You manipulated him, just like you manipulated your father. Richard held up a hand. Mrs. Hayes, I'd be careful about making accusations of fraud or manipulation. Those are serious claims that could constitute defamation if you can't prove them. Patricia was still reading. There's more here. Emails, correspondence. Yes, Richard said. Michael documented your repeated attempts to pressure him into challenging Paul's ownership. He saved everything. Diana's face went red. Those conversations were private. They're evidence of your intent. If you proceed with a legal challenge, we'll use them to demonstrate that you've been planning this for years, that Michael explicitly refused your demands while alive, and that you waited until his death to pursue a claim you knew was fraudulent. Fraudulent. Diana stood up. How dare you? Sit down, Diana, Patricia said quietly. Please. Diana sat, but her hands were shaking. Patricia looked at Richard. Can we have a moment alone with our client? Of course. Richard and I stepped out into the hallway. Through the glass I could see Patricia talking urgently to Diana, pointing at the papers, shaking her head. Tyler sat motionless, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. She's telling her to drop it, Richard said. Will she? Any competent attorney would. This case is unwinnable. She'd spend $20,000 in legal fees just to lose. We waited 15 minutes. Finally, Patricia opened the door and motioned us back in. Diana wouldn't look at me. Patricia spoke. My client maintains that she acted in good faith based on information she believed to be true. However, in light of the evidence presented, she acknowledges that a legal challenge would be unlikely to succeed. She's prepared to withdraw any claims to the property. In writing, Richard said. In writing. And she agrees never to enter the property again without Paul's explicit permission. Patricia looked at Diana. Diana nodded, jaw clenched. Fine. Richard pulled out a pre-prepared agreement. Sign this, please. It confirms you waive all claims now and in the future to the Cannon Beach property. It also confirms you acknowledge Paul as sole owner and agree not to trespass. Diana read it, her lips pressed into a thin line. Then she signed. Her signature was angry, the pen tearing slightly through the paper. Are we done? She asked. We're done, Richard said. Diana stood, grabbed her purse and walked out without a word. Tyler followed, giving me an apologetic look as he left. Patricia gathered her papers. For what it's worth, I advised against this from the beginning. She was insistent. Thank you for your honesty, Richard said after they left. Richard and I sat in the conference room, the signed agreement between us. You won, he said. Michael won. True. I picked up the folder with Michael's will and the letters. Can I keep this? It's yours. I'll keep copies for our records, but the originals are yours. I drove back to Cannon Beach that weekend. I brought Michael's envelope with me, handling it like the precious thing it was, my brother's final gift. I sat on the deck Saturday evening, bourbon in hand, watching the sunset paint the ocean in shades of copper and gold. The house was quiet. The new locks were installed. Diana's number was blocked in my phone, but I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. Michael had known. He'd seen Diana's greed and recognized it for what it was. He'd protected me because that's what brothers do. And now he was gone, and I was sitting here alone, holding on to a house that suddenly felt more like a burden than a blessing. I thought about selling it, just ending the whole thing, converting it to cash, simplifying my life. But I knew I wouldn't, because this house wasn't just real estate. It was memory. It was Dad teaching us to fish. It was Michael and me building driftwood forts. It was 3 generations of summers and storms and stories. Diana had wanted to take that away, not because she loved it or understood it, but because it was valuable, and Michael, in his final act of brotherly love, had made sure she couldn't. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old photos. Found one from 5 years ago, Michael and me on this same deck, holding up a massive lingard we'd caught. Both of us grinning like idiots, sunburned and happy. I raised my glass to the ocean, to the sunset, to my brother. Thanks, Michael, I won't let you down. The waves crashed against the rocks below, eternal and indifferent, but I wasn't indifferent. I'd protect this place. Not because it was worth millions, but because it was worth everything that mattered, and Diana would never understand the difference. I spent Sunday morning walking the beach, collecting sand dollars and thinking about the future. Tyler texted me around noon. Uncle Paul, I'm sorry about all this. Mom told us you stole the house. We didn't know Michael left that will. I hope we can still talk sometime. I stared at the message for a long time, then replied, you're always welcome here, Tyler, you and Josh both. This was never about you guys. He sent back a thumbs up. Maybe there was hope for the next generation after all. I called Richard Monday morning. Everything okay? He asked. Yeah, just wanted to thank you and to ask, is there anything else I should do? Legally, I mean, to make sure this is really finished. I'd recommend updating your own will. Make your wishes about the property crystal clear, just like Michael did. Name an executor who'll honor those wishes. Maybe write a letter explaining the history, the family significance. Make it impossible for anyone to claim ignorance. I'll do that. Good. And Paul, enjoy the house. Don't let Diana's greed poison what it means to you. I won't, but it was easier said than done. Over the next few weeks, I found myself second-guessing every decision about the property. Should I rent it out? Should I renovate? Should I just live there permanently and leave Seattle behind? I called my daughter Emma, who lived in Portland with her husband and 2 kids. Dad, what's wrong? She asked when she answered. Nothing's wrong. Can't I just call my daughter? You can, but you usually text first. What's up? I told her the whole story. Diana's demands, Michael's hidden will, the confrontation. Emma was quiet when I finished. Then Aunt Diana tried to steal Grandpa's house. In a sense, that's insane. Uncle Michael must have known how crazy she was. He did. That's why he protected me. Are you okay? I'm fine, just thinking about the future, about what happens to the house when I'm gone. Dad, you're 65, not 90. You've got years. Still, I want to make sure it stays in the family. For you, for the grandkids. We love that place. You know we do, but you should do what makes you happy. It's your house. It's our house, all of us. That's the whole point. I heard her smile through the phone. Then keep it, Dad. Aunt Diana doesn't get to ruin it for us. No, she doesn't. I updated my will the following week. Clear language. Emma as executor, the house to her and the grandkids, with explicit instructions that it remain in family hands. I wrote a letter explaining the history, how Grandpa built it, how Dad expanded it, how Michael and I had loved it, how Michael had protected it. I included copies of everything, Dad's will, Michael's will, the agreement Diana signed, all the evidence. If anyone ever questioned it again, they'd have the full story. 3 months later, I was back at the beach house for Thanksgiving. Emma came with her family. Her kids, Sophia and Lucas, ran on the beach like I had 40 years ago, screaming with joy when the cold water touched their feet. We cooked turkey in the old kitchen, the one Grandpa had built. We played board games by the fire. We told stories about Michael, keeping his memory alive. Diana didn't call, didn't text. As far as I was concerned, she'd made her choice and would have to live with it. On Friday morning, after Emma's family had driven back to Portland, I sat on the deck with coffee and watched the sunrise. The house creaked and settled around me, familiar as breathing. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Josh. Tyler gave me your number. I wanted to apologize for Mom's behavior and to ask if the invitation to visit still stands. I'd like to see the place Uncle Michael talked about so much. I smiled and replied, doors always open, Josh. Let me know when you want to come down. Maybe Diana had raised them better than I'd given her credit for, or maybe they'd figured out on their own what mattered. Either way, the house would be here, not because it was valuable, but because it was home. And home is worth fighting for. I thought about Michael a lot in those quiet morning hours. Wondered if he'd known somehow that his final act of protection would mean this much. Wondered if he was watching, satisfied that his plan had worked. I like to think he was. The sun climbed higher, turning the ocean from gray to blue. Gulls wheeled overhead, crying their ancient songs. The smell of salt and cedar filled my lungs. I was 65 years old. I'd lost my father, lost my brother, faced down a family betrayal that could have destroyed everything, but I still had this. The house Grandpa built, the legacy Dad preserved, the gift Michael protected, and I'd make damn sure it lasted another 60 years for Emma, for Sophia and Lucas, for whatever great-grandchildren might someday run on this same beach, building the same driftwood forts, falling asleep to the same waves. Diana had wanted to turn it into money. Michael had made sure it remained what it always was, a home, a history, a promise between brothers that some things matter more than their price tag. I raised my coffee mug to the empty deck chair beside me. Thanks, brother, you always had my back. The waves answered with their eternal rhythm. The house stood solid beneath me. And somewhere I hoped Michael was smiling, because in the end, family is the ones who protect you, even after they're gone. End.